How's it going, everybody? So we're back talking some more Season 3 of Invincible on the channel. It's here, Mark versus Conquest. I was still riding that high off the Invincible War last week. How could they possibly top something that epic? They managed to find a way to top that. I'm not even trying to be hyperbolic here. This battle between Invincible and Conquest has to be up there now for one of the best superhero fights in media. It's kind of insane that the majority of this finale for Season 3 is dedicated to these dudes just trying to beat the crap out of each other. You would think maybe after a while it would get old watching them try and brutally murder one another, but there's so many stages and different variables added to the stakes that bring intensity and a lot of depth to the battle, besides the fact that it's just an incredibly brutal, exciting experience. Cause sure, we've seen Mark face off against various other Viltrumites in the series to this point, but you could just tell there was something completely different about Conquest. It's insane to see how much faster and more powerful he is than any other Viltrumite we've seen to this point. As the episode progressed, I got more nervous for Mark. By far is the worst beatdown we've seen him take in this show, even bigger than the one he got from his father, although it is kind of interesting that there are parallels to that battle back in Season 1 with some of the stuff that happens between Conquest and Invincible. Over the past week or so, since we had the official reveal that Jeffrey Dean Morgan is voicing Conquest, there's been a lot of divisive opinions online on if he's the right fit for Conquest, and after hearing an entire episode of him voicing the character, I think he's perfect. The cocky, confident demeanor amplifies how menacing and powerful Conquest is. He is relishing in Mark trying anything he absolutely can to do any sort of damage and toying with Mark before absolutely destroying him. Conquest is literally launching Mark through multitudes of different buildings, causing even more mass casualties and devastation. I was begging, please don't let any other characters in this universe try and interfere because they're going to end up probably dying. They definitely knew that I would be worried because if there was one fight in this show I really was hoping Oliver would not try and go interfere with, it would be this one. There wasn't even any false hope for me that Oliver could somehow pull off anything against Conquest. It was just a straight up ass whooping. Conquest is operating on a spectrum of evil that we don't usually see. He's the type of diabolical man that will smack Oliver so hard he bounces off the street and tells him he's going to tear him in half and eat his heart out while he's throwing Mark around like a rag doll, then proceeds to actually try and tear Oliver in half. Thankfully, if there's some positive that comes out of this interaction, Oliver does survive, although that does just basically mean that Mark's ass whooping continues. Realistically, I could list off probably at least 10, 15 plus moments in this finale that had my jaw on the floor, but one of those moments is one I kind of hinted at earlier, and that is them recreating the sequence we saw in Season 1 with Omni-Man holding Mark up in front of the train. These sick individuals found a way to make it even worse with Conquest, holding Mark up and flying him through an entire city's worth of people's bodies, then for good measure breaks Mark's leg once Eve shows up. This makes me have to ask all the people out there that have read the Invincible comics, is this just a common occurrence where they just have Mark used as a human shield over and over again throughout the comic books run, or is this just something that we see in the TV show? Speaking of Eve, by the way, I was glad that she woke up, even if she woke up to complete disaster. Definitely was commendable, but also made me nervous, similar to Oliver, that she gets right up out of the hospital bed and goes out to try and rescue Mark. While we generally don't see how powerful Eve is in the show because there's an explanation for it, this one-on-one fight between her and Conquest was pretty amazing. Plus, I had to love that she had this whole Iron Man, Power Rangers style transformation, put on her force field armor. For about 90% of this fight between Eve and Conquest, I was pretty hyped because it looked like she was doing some pretty good damage. At the very least, she was doing a lot better job at fighting Conquest than Mark was up to this point. Then they had to go and hit me with reality with another horrifying moment of Conquest obliterating Eve, bashing her face in and then punching a hole through her. That alone was horrific enough to watch, and then you add on top of it Mark's horror of the realization of her dying. You know, it is pretty rare to see a villain in such a short period of time leave their mark as an incredibly iconic sadistic villain, but Conquest has done a pretty good job speedrunning to one of the most iconic evil villains. All the death and destruction he's already had up to this point, and then he taunts Mark about his attachments while Eve is dying in front of him, and thanking Mark for allowing him to cut loose on this mission. If I had to pick a favorite line though from this episode, which I'm sure if you're an Invincible fan, it's from the comic book, so you probably already knew it was coming, about how he can see the future and you don't live to see tomorrow. At this point, much like in Season 2 when Mark raged out and completely destroyed Angstrom, his breaking point here was a sight to behold, shattering Conquest's mechanical arm and getting scrappy. I mean, he bites Conquest. The part that did kind of throw me off, though, was Eve actually not dying. She resurrects and then shoots this giant bolt of energy at Conquest, and even that won't kill this man. This man refuses to die from almost everything thrown at him. I honestly was kind of horrified at the sight of Mark bashing Conquest's head in repeatedly, since pretty much all of his other limbs are broken at this point, so why not headbutt him to death? The remains of what's left over of Conquest's face after this will linger for long after watching. I definitely don't think I can show that on YouTube, but you probably have an idea what it looks like. The epilogue of the finale and setting things in place for season 4 definitely had some highs and lows as it tries to go through a lot of different things. I didn't bring this up earlier, but I'm very nervous about the fact that D.A. Sinclair is putting these dead Invincible variants into his robots. I feel like that's gonna be kind of, you know, messy down the road. Knowing how Cecil operates, I knew this man was lying to Mark about Conquest and him being actually dead. At this point, 3 seasons into Invincible, it seems incredibly difficult to kill a Viltrumite. It seems like no matter what massive, catastrophic, devastating moves you do to them, they will not die. Considering the majority of this finale was focused on Invincible versus Conquest, I was hoping that we would maybe push the funeral stuff for Rex into the beginning of next season, because they didn't really have a lot of time to dedicate to the funeral. Don't get me wrong, it was very somber seeing them all remember Rex. I just wish we spent a little bit more time remembering Rex besides speeding through these speeches. Ray is in the distance breaking down and doesn't have a speech at all. Maybe it's just me, but I think it's kind of weird that Robot, as a way to remember Rex, is going to change his name. Isn't it already weird enough that you basically already are Rex to a degree, and now you're gonna just go by his name? And for the other things they set in motion, low-key, I kind of forgot about the Sequids at this point. There were so many other things going on in this show. And when they cut to the Sequids building up their army underground, all it did was just remind me that they exist. Same for Damien Darkblood. His post-credit scene reminded me that he still exists. Much to look forward to for season 4 and beyond, especially with Mark's realization, finally, after this battle between him and Conquest, he can't be holding back anymore in these fights. He's gonna have to actually probably kill some of these people. All in all, though, this finale is gonna be one of those finales we're gonna be talking about for a very long time. It's very iconic in my opinion. I love this show. I think definitely to this point, I've been convinced. This finale has fully convinced me to actually read the comic books. I don't know if I'm gonna read up to this point or spoil it for the rest of the series and read past this point in the comic books, but this finale was so phenomenal, I'm picking up those compendiums like immediately off Amazon. Once you get a chance to check out this finale though for season 3 of Invincible, make sure you share your thoughts down below. What'd you think of the finale? Did you like the finale? Did you not like the finale? How'd you feel about the battle between Mark and Conquest? Either way, thank you guys. As always, shout out videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure to like on the video and also subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. And until the next time, I'll see you guys later.